Hi, and welcome to Bizarre and Spooky. I am Barb, your host. On this episode, I will share stories of dolls that will haunt your nightmares. Many children around the world have had dolls to play with. Dolls bring joy and imagination to children. These dolls I am sharing with you don't bring joy, they bring terror to their owners. Are you ready to hear some stories behind these horrific dolls? I wanted to say that the following stories have gruesome images of murder. Viewer discretion is advised. Raggedy Ann was created when John Grell's daughter found a ragged doll in the attic of their home. While watching the joy his daughter had playing with this doll, it led to this cartoonist to create stories about the doll and named the character Raggedy Ann. In 1915, the character was created into a doll and books. Raggedy Ann became hugely popular among children. In Portland, Massachusetts, a mother and daughter were brutally killed by Douglas P. Adams, the husband and father of the mother and child. The family was known by friends and family of being happy and loving. When the murders was reported publicly, the town was in shock. No one would have believed something like this would ever happen to this family. The Boston Evening American newspaper reported that Douglas P. Adams cut the throats of his wife and daughter with a carving knife. When asked, Douglas recalled that he had no cause or reason to kill them. He told authorities, legally, I am guilty, but morally, that's a different story. Other reports state that he planned the attack for 3 days, and he himself didn't know why he did it. So it was making people wonder if there had been an evil influence over him at the time. There have been reports stating that when the investigation was held, that a life-size doll with thick red hair and an orange triangled nose was sitting in the chair of the murdered girl's bedroom, overlooking her lifeless body. In 1970, Miss Bernard was out shopping and had come across a Raggedy Ann doll that she knew her 25-year-old daughter would love, as she was a collector of dolls her whole entire life. Thinking that this doll would make a perfect addition to her collection, she gave it to her daughter, Deidre Bernard, as a birthday gift. Deidre loved the doll at first sight. She showed the doll to her roommates, Laura Clifton and Laura's partner, Cal Randall. Shortly after the doll arrived at the apartment, strange things started to happen. The doll would be in different positions from where Deidre would have left it last. And then handwriting notes in a childlike script would be found all around the apartment. When the roommates couldn't handle the strange events anymore, they requested the help of a medium. After the medium studied the doll, she confirmed there was a spirit attached to the doll. The medium reported that the spirit was that of a 7-year-old girl named Annabelle Higgins, and that she had died in the area and asked to have permission to stay inside the doll. She liked the place the doll was staying and didn't want to leave. The roommates agreed, thinking that a child ghost couldn't be dangerous. After returning home from meeting with the medium, activity ramped up. Red dots started to appear on the doll when nothing that could have made the dots were anywhere near the doll. Cal Randall began having nightmares about Annabelle and would wake up from the nightmares with severe scratches. Despite desperate for answers how to stop the attacks, they went to a priest named Father Hagen, and then he contacted his superior, Father Cook. When they couldn't help dispel the ghost from the doll, they turned to the famous and respected paranormal researchers, Ed and Lorraine Warren. The Warrens visited and examined the doll. They revealed that it wasn't a girl spirit that was inhabiting the doll, but it was a demonic spirit seeking to use the doll as a way to possess one of the people living in the apartment. The Warrens assisted Father Cook to do an exorcism on the doll, and the apartment cleansed and cleanse them. The father also blessed the roommates. Deidre insisted that the Warrens, to take the doll with them when they left. The Warrens agreed and took the doll to their occult museum behind a display glass case, and with a warning tag to it that says, "Positively do not open." And that's where she sits to this day. Robert the Doll. In Key West, Florida in 1905, Robert Eugene Oates was gifted a gift from his maid that he cherished dearly. The gift was a life-size doll that he named after himself. Gene made a house for his beloved doll and filled it with toys, furniture, and his own bear. Gene took Robert everywhere he went. Gene's family and the maid began to notice strange things happening, and when they asked Gene if he did it, Gene would blame Robert. After a while, people around Gene realized that something odd was up with the doll. People walking past the house would claim to see the doll moving from one side of the window to the other side. The family started to see the facial expressions of the doll would change, and then the doll would move by itself around the house. It appeared that the doll could be seen paying attention to their conversations. Gene kept the doll all his life until he got married, and Anne, his wife, she was reported to hate the doll. She insisted that Gene keep it in his painting room upstairs of the house. When Gene died, Robert was then locked up in a trunk, out of sight from Anne and the rest of the house and the family. After Anne died, the home was sold to Myrtle Renner. Myrtle found Robert the doll and often taking him out of the trunk. Guests would hear footsteps and giggling when they visited Myrtle's house. Robert would move around the house again, desperate to get rid of the doll. She donated it to the Fort East Martello Museum on the other side of the island. Robert the doll is still there with his teddy bear under a glass case. He is said to be the most haunted doll in the world. Hundreds of people come all over the world to visit Robert at the museum. Ghost hunters investigating the museum reported seeing Robert's chest move up and down as if he was breathing. Visitors have felt something touch their knees, and pictures of the doll would have orbs flying all around it. Visitors have also reported that strange activity would follow them home after visiting with Robert. At least one death has been linked to the Robert doll. People are so freaked out by the activity following them home that they started writing letters to Robert to stop him from haunting them. After receiving the letters at the museum, the haunts would stop. Even Canada has their own haunted dolls, and its name is Mandy. One day in 1991, a woman walked into the Quesnels and District Museum in British Columbia, carrying an old cracked porcelain baby doll. She told the museum staff that she did not want the doll. She found it in her basement. It was old and falling apart, and it was too crumbled to let her daughter play with it. While talking to the lady, the staff found out that the doll's name was Mandy, and it had belonged to her grandmother. The lady also explained that the night she would hear baby cries, and when she went to find where the sounds were coming from, she found it was coming from the basement, and that the breeze from an open window that she knew she had closed that day. The doll would also be in the storage under the window. After donating the doll to the museum, the baby crying has stopped. Shortly after acquiring the doll, the staff started hearing footsteps when no one else was nearby. Staff lunches would go missing, but found later in the drawer. Items continually go missing and turn up in unusual places. Anytime Mandy was placed with other dolls or toys, they would be found knocked over or laying on the floor. She had to be in the display all on her own. And finally, she would be found moved from one spot to another spot in her cage. Her eyes seemed to follow guests and staff when they moved around the room where Mandy was displayed in. Mandy is always found in different positions. Even the stuffed lamb that Mandy allowed to have in her lap had been found outside of her locked glass case on the floor. Visitors to the museum have tried to take pictures and videotape Mandy, but every time the film or video would be blurry or the camera would just stop working altogether. The batteries would also drain. Some believe Mandy is possessed by a little girl that had died in the basement holding the doll, and some of the girl's spirit transferred into the doll. Mandy became so popular that she was featured in newspapers, the radio, TV shows, and it also went on the Montel Williams show with Sylvia Browne. Sylvia Browne said that the doll belonged to young twins that had died of polio, and their mother's grief was so strong that it implanted into the doll. She feels that it's that energy that is what people are experiencing when they're around the doll. Many people still come to the museum to visit Mandy in hopes to experience her presence and her pranks. If you thought those dolls were creepy, how about a whole island of spooky dolls? There is an island south of Mexico between the canals of Xochimilco, that I'm pretty sure I said that wrong, but please bear with me, that has a history full of sadness. The island is known as Isla de las Monicas. I know I got that wrong too, I'm sorry, but it means Island of the Dolls. Don Julian moved to the island to live in a secluded area for peace and quiet. In 1950, Don Julian told a story that he had found a body of a little girl that drowned in the nearby canal. And after a few days after they found the body, a doll showed up on the shore of the island. Believing it could be the doll that belonged to the drowned girl, he hung the doll up and continued to hang up all the dolls that he could find. He collected in honor of her death. He was so captured by this that he continued to hang up dolls to collect until his dying day. He drowned in the same area in which he believed that the girl had died. Friends and family thought he imagined the girl, and the isolation of the island was made him crazy. He got the doll from finding lost dolls from the canals in trash around the island and traded products that he grew to the locals in order to get more dolls. He didn't clean them or fix them, he just hung them up or displayed them around his house. Many of the dolls had missing parts, ratted clothes, and haunted stairs. Over time, even the dolls in good condition would fall to disrepair. He would dress them up in whatever accessories he could find. While others found the island full of dolls scary, he saw them as beautiful protectors. Don Julian would give tours to the island and charge a small fee for the photos that they were taken to get more dolls. Visitors at the island had reported that at night you could hear the dolls whispering and whistling, or even moving their limbs and turning their heads on their own. The reports had made the island so popular that it has caught the attention of Guinness Book of World Records, that awarded the island as the biggest collection of haunted dolls. And TV shows have also featured the island on their episodes, like Ghost Adventures. Are you brave enough to take a ride to the Island of Dolls? Those were some creepy dolls, that's for sure. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Which story scared you the most? Thank you for listening to this episode of Bizarre and Spooky. If you have a spooky story that you'd like to share, you can email me at bizarreandspooky@gmail.com. If you would like to support the show, then leave a 5-star rating or donate to the Bizarre and Spooky Buy Me a Coffee. Thank you very much, and till next time, stay spooky.